Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RVing in New England. We have got a fantastic show for you this week, as we do every week. But I'm going to call John. We're actually doing something very different this week. It was kind of, I won't say it was a mistake, but it was an idea that John had. And John is with actually one of our dealers, and John is broadcasting remotely tonight. We've not done this before, but we're going to offer this to our dealers as part of a new sponsorship package. So this is kind of a dry run, and Sherry Fuller gets it free of charge this week. But John, introduce Sherry and tell us where you are.
Well, Bob, can you see Sherry on your camera? So, you know, Bob, I've driven by here Fuller's for years and years and years, and they have this beautiful park model, and certainly you know what a park model is, right out on Route 140. And I said, you know what, we should do a show from there. And I mentioned it to Sherry. There we are. Look at see her waving out the window.
See that?
You know, right there. And so we've brought it to fruition. I should tell you this. They have every piece of mulch taken off, the fake grass outside. You've heard of fake news, but if you look closely, there's some fake grass in that picture right by the, what do you call it? The picnic table. Picnic table. Sherry, say hi to everybody out there. You're only seen around the world.
Hey, thanks.
How's everybody doing?
Thanks for letting us use the remote studio. It was a very creative idea that John had, and he happened to see that unit, so we certainly appreciate it. And it is a very, very clever unit. So we'll show some interior pictures of it later on.
Yeah, but they've been in business, Bob, for what, 35 years?
35 years.
And
years, almost 100 years. Everything from
pioneers. And we were with them last week here. We were doing a segment for Rolling on TV about the difference in renting an RV from an accredited dealer versus, you know, a peer-to-peer membership, and you know, not membership, but a peer-to-peer owner. And you're going to see that on Rolling on TV in the upcoming months. So
we're going to make Sherry a national TV star. She might. Well, her head won't get too big. She's down to earth.
She's with it. Bobby's the one we'd have to worry about.
Right, we'll have to worry about Bobby and see what he's doing.
We keep him outside.
Yeah, I don't have a lot from our dealers yet this week. I know we got July 4th coming up, and I do want, while we are at it, let me just, and I'll probably show it again tonight, but we are not going to broadcast next week. So we didn't broadcast last year near July 4th, but we'll be back on July 10th with Joel Holland from Harvest Host. And on July 17th, we'll have Jose and Michelle from Rolling on TV. And then on July 31st, we will have Eva Middick from Go Power talking about solar energy. So we're
it's very important that when we tell people about the solar thing, make sure they're here for that show, because we're working on some kind of promotion that people who watch this show and do certain things that we tell them during the show will be able to qualify to win a solar system. You know, so that's what Jose has told us about. He said to set something up, and we'll do that with Eva, or is it Eve, whatever, and go. But Sherry, why don't you just tell our people where you're located and where they can reach you if they want to come here on their own.
Okay, we are on Route 140 in Boylston, right off of 290 outside of Worcester. It's exit 23B. We're a mile down on the left. We are here 7 days a week, year round. And during the summer months, we're here till 7 o'clock at night, sometimes later. And all the units are always unlocked. You can browse on through. We're down in the office, but we invite everybody in, check out the units, see what you like, and then we can take it from there on any rentals. And we've got the sales too. We've been doing great.
And it's also important to note, I think, Bob, it's important to note as well that if you don't live in central Massachusetts but still want to rent, if you fly into Logan, they can make the appropriate what do you call it?
So if you fly in, we'll pick you up at either the hotel or the airport, bring you out, get you in the motorhome with all your belongings that you'll need for the rental. And then when you come back, we'll bring you back to either the hotel or the airport. And basically a one-stop shop. You don't have to tie into anybody else. We'll take care of it.
Great. Jerry, thank you very much. We're going to get into our guest, but
You got it.
we will post all of the fuller rental information and sales in the comments below. Thank you very much.
problem. Have a good
All
show.
right. So we are now going to go to our special guest, appearing for the first time on RVing in New England. So he's got Chad Reece, for the chairman of the RVIA Public Relations Committee, but also the corporate relations manager at Winnebago. Chad, welcome to the show.
Well, hey, thanks, Bob, and thanks, John. Looking forward to this. It's been fun. The pre lead up to this has been a great time, so I'm looking forward to the show.
Bob, you didn't tell him that we get him on with the easy softball questions and then nail him with the hard ones as soon as he's live.
Right, we got.
You didn't tell him that, did you?
We have a few fans lined up on the side of the that'll whack them every now and then. Chad, give us a brief. You've been at Winnebago. Give us a brief history with Winnebago so that people know who you are, and then we'll kind of get into the topic.
Sure, I'd love to. So actually, I've been with Winnebago for 31 years now, so it's been a great company for me. I really like being here, and a proud rich history of the company. And not only is an Iowa-based, North Iowa, started in North Iowa 61 years ago, but now the reach is a little bit further with facilities in Oregon, Indiana, Florida, and actually Minnesota too. So a little bit wider footprint now, but still that same great culture that we started with, that can-do type of spirit and entrepreneurial and sticking to our word type stuff. So I've really enjoyed working here, and it's a great company. So I'm happy to be here on your show today too.
Hey, Chad, you said something in the warm-up when we were talking to you before we went on the air that was very, very important, and I believe that you don't even know you said it, but I'm going to repeat it back, okay? You said that you are an actual camper. You actually own an RV and use it, and you'd be amazed at the number of people that Bob and I run into in the industry that, are at pretty high levels that have nothing to do with camping because they do it all day long and they don't want to do anything at night. But how else can you find out whether your units work if you don't use them?
Exactly. And so not only from a personal usage I own my motorhome and we've enjoyed it as a family and it's been a great fit for us. But as a company, we also have the ability to use product. And we feel it's very important, especially for people that are in the design side, the usage side, and figuring out how to make things better. And you see the results with some of our product too. You don't get there without not only using it yourself, but perhaps even more importantly, going to the people that are using your product or products similar to it and finding out what that need is going to be, that future need, or how you can improve. And we found great success in not only talking to our own owners, like in our WIT club, but to other owners groups, and frankly, people that are maybe a little bit more on the outside looking in, not even quite into the RV purchase yet, but finding out what's driving them. And the product, the Revel, is a great example. So Winnebago Revel came about, and as we're doing that initial work, we spent a lot of time in the outdoor segment and a little bit outside of the traditional RV ownership model.
Jet, define the outdoor segment for our viewers.
Well, the outdoor segment, I've spent a little bit of time here just talking about this from a company perspective. We look at ourselves as an outdoor company. We deliver outdoor experiences, and many of those are in RVs, but we also, of course, have marine now too. But when you look at it from that perspective, the outdoor industry is a great driver in the American economy. It actually accounts for 2.2% of our GDP, which a lot of people are going to go, wow, but that is a huge number. And so when you look at the larger outdoor segment, there's this huge segment of folks out there that are very into outdoor activities, and that can run the gamut from really heavy duty things like climbing mountains, but even more things like fishing to hiking. Those are traditional things. And there's even things that maybe fall outside what many people consider outdoor activities, but they all align inside there. And so when you look at that model, there's a lot of people out there with a lot of great ideas, a lot of ways to pursue their passion. If we can deliver products that help people pursue their passions, we think we're getting our job done. And by doing that, then the business follows. So,
well, you are. It's very interesting. You said a couple of things. So you're 31 years with Winnebago. So you're one of the young guys.
I'm still a kid. I can tell you that. I just looked at the numbers recently. In my seniority ranking, there's like maybe 340 some people ahead of me yet. Okay. So I've got a ways to go.
And so, Chad,
we have this year Longview RV out in Windsor Locks, Connecticut, celebrating 60 years as a dealership. They were founded in 1959 by Fran and Shirley Roberts. And I was telling Mike Happy, when I saw him I think at the breakfast meeting, but Fran and Shirley Roberts started a Winnebago dealership on the Mohawk Trail on Route 2 up in the middle of the mountains in western Massachusetts. And do you know back in 1960, they were selling 55 Braves per month from the side of the road on a mountaintop, just as Winnebago was getting going when they first had that product line. And Fran and Shirley, if they're not watching tonight, I'll make sure that we get them a replay because Frank runs the dealership now. But go ahead, John. You were going to say something. I want to get into some of our comments.
Yeah, there's a couple things here. Last week on Friday night, I got to do a follow-up with a prior guest, the Goldsteins from the Escapees, whatever. And
the Hangouts.
Around the hangout. And what I did was around the campfire, I asked them, as RV owners, what would you like me to ask the executives? And unanimously it was, listen to the owners because they're the ones that use the product and know what's good, what's bad, what you should adjust, what you should get rid of, what you should add, etc. But one of them said, none of them listen. And then 3 people from the other side of the campfire said, hold on, Winnebago listens. So
right.
I wasn't even thinking when I heard that about, you, Chad, being with us tonight. But, Bob, you'll find out next month at the Grand National Rally that there is a segment there where they go around and they ask people specifically feedback about their particular unit. And it's a very important, right, Chad? It's a very important part of it.
I believe it. I've been a Winnebago fan for a long time. But before we jump into our topic, I do want to recognize Walter Swenson is on, and he said, hello, Mrs. Fuller. Is Sherry still there?
She is around somewhere.
Okay, Walter is the president of the Mass Good Sam chapter, just took over this year and does a great job with them. Jerry Plant is on from Letchworth State Park. And
where is that?
Jerry, I don't know. Tell us where it is, Jerry. The hell do you think we do? Follow you around when you go to these campgrounds? But Jerry's with Majors RV in Bourne, Mass. They're one of our best service centers in the Northeast. People come from all. They just do parts and accessories and service, and almost everybody there is certified or master certified. They are phenomenal. Oh, Mr. Kessler joined from RV Business.
Chad, Chad, can you see these questions?
I haven't yet. I could. Let me see if I can find the.
You click over, it says comments. If you click see all.
Yeah, Mr. Kessler, who, by the way, Rick, you're 7 minutes late. Now that's better than the 30 minutes late.
It's usually 35 or 40 minutes late.
Yeah, usually he comes in at that. So he either had an early dinner or he decided to maybe eat later.
He's on Elkhart time.
He says, ask Chad about the Toy Story 4 premiere, which I just happened to put up. The Winnebago.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I guess the word is awesome for that. So maybe not everybody's heard about this yet, but the movie Toy Story 4 actually premiered on the 21st. And so a big event, but the cool part of that is through Go RVing and the RVIA Industry Association, there was a lot of work done, and an RV figures prominently into that storyline in the movie. And so what you see there is the Winnebago that was actually taken out to the premiere in Los Angeles, which we were able to attend. And this was on the red carpet. So you'll see the characters from the movie right on the vehicle itself. So we had
that's not a Navion review, is it?
No, that's a new Vita. Is what that
Vita,
is.
Okay, that's right.
John, I know it's only been since September, but you did the product review of the Vita for Rolling on TV when we were out there in September.
Right, but you know what? From this picture, it looks so much like the Navion or the View that I couldn't quite tell.
Oh, okay.
Well, in fairness, I think those characters probably threw you off too. It breaks up the outline a little bit.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So,
No,
it's on a Sprinter too, right, Chad?
What's that?
That's on a Sprinter as well, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So in speaking back to the premiere, so it was a great event, and we were able to participate there. There's actually a tour going on around the country to support the launch of the movie with a different motorhome that's making stops in 21 different cities, including I think there was one in Cleveland, I think, that we might have had a picture of. I don't know if you got that, Bob. But lines of people.
And they were in Boston also, but they were here on Father's Day. So
Okay.
Jerry says that park that he's at is in upstate New York. Dave Itarp is joining us, and Dave, I don't recognize your name, so hopefully you're a first-time viewer. He says, love my Winnebago so far. And Diane Quayle is on from the Maine Good Sam. Her and her husband Martin are the Maine state directors up there. And Rick says he's having brats and corn on the cob dinner. So I don't know, Chad, did you get your invitation? I don't remember.
I must have missed that one. I must have
missed that.
Wait a minute. He lives in Michigan, though. He doesn't live in Elkhart, right?
Well, that's true. And
so we can't really go to his house when we're there for open house.
There you go. All right. And Tom Ziabrowski, who was with the big guy in the FMCA with the New England area for a number of years. And by the way, the New England area just had a new election. And John Traffican is the new president, or I don't know, vice president, but for the New England
Tom
area.
is very happy.
Yep. So people are happy. John is.
No. Not people are happy. Mike is happy.
For a number of years, but yeah, a lot of people happy. All right. Jerry says I inspected a 2015 Itasca Soleil last week. Really nice unit.
Bob, time out.
Yeah.
Time out. When you say the word happy, when we're on a Winnebago thing, you got to be a little specific as to what you're referring to.
When you're happy, well, we're not referring to Mike happy.
When I got a Winnebago interview and
Right.
you're saying people are happy,
Right.
you have to be careful what you're saying, because what's the president's last name?
President, CEO, and Chairman, Mike Happy, and I'll be
Happy.
interviewing him 3 weeks when I go out to Winnebago, and I've got a beautiful Winnebago Bolt that's on loan that I'm going to be taking out there. And if you don't know, folks, Bolt is Class B with lithium-ion batteries and self-sufficient. And even Mike Wendland is jealous of me because I've got the unit for a couple of weeks, and he says I probably won't have to plug it into a pedestal for the whole 3 weeks that we're on the road. So
See, Chad, the truth is, they don't trust the Gami with a C because they don't think he can maneuver it, so they've given him a B.
It's too good. Yeah. Well, Chad, one of the things that we wanted, and actually the reason we wanted you on, is a couple of weeks ago, the industry did something that a lot of consumers may not even be aware of, and they do it all the time. And as you're in your role as chairman of the PR committee, why don't you tell us about this wonderful week that all you guys, and I didn't join you this year. I've never been there, but I'm going to get the Winnebago Rally this year, and I'm going to get to RVs Move America next year. But tell us what's up down there.
Oh, terrific. So RVs Move America is a week-long kind of a celebration and a work event for us, in that we gather as an industry. And so it represents a lot of different parts of our industry through the RV Industry Association. So that includes manufacturers, suppliers, supporters, campground. There's a lot of people that actually come to the event, to the meetings. And so it's a traditional event held in June usually, and it's held in Washington, D.C. And with that, it allows us some access to things going on at Capitol Hill, which is very important. But just to speak a little bit to the organization itself, RVIA is an organization that represents our industry, and about 98% of the vehicles that are produced and sold in the United States belong to member companies. So people who belong to this industry association. And some of the more important things that we do as an organization is standards and meeting those standards and the inspections that go with that, to ensure that the products that are being produced meet these standards that have been developed over the course of time. And that's been very effective for us. So we're able to police ourselves, as it were, and provide better products into the industry. So that's a key thing. And also it allows us to have a voice for not only ourselves as industry inside participants, but for consumers too. So as we are meeting and talking about things, especially as we visit with representatives from our legislatures and senators, and whether it be at the state level, in some cases, or the federal level, it allows us to advocate for the things that are important for all of us for the future. And we can speak to a little bit of that as we go on tonight. Some of the things that are kind of high up on the list right now. We've got some successes to talk about. Some news that just broke today that we're pretty proud of and happy that is coming. It's going to benefit all of us as RVers and all of us as outdoor industry participants. And so that's great news.
Well,
But
You mentioned it earlier too, Chad, and there's a chart that I can post a link to later on that is available on the RVIA website also. But you mentioned it, that the outdoor recreation industry is 2.2% of the U.S. gross domestic product. I mean, that's bigger than mining.
Yeah, that's when
that's huge.
Yeah, that's when you combine all of it together. So I can speak more specifically to the RV industry itself, and there's some pretty interesting numbers inside of that also. So with that study, we just released it during RVs Move America week, and with that, there's some terrific numbers coming out. So John, Bob, or rather you flashed that up there a little bit, but so when we look at the annual economic impact of the RV industry in the United States, it's an amazing $114 billion. So that is a number that is just terrific. You know, that represents all the economic impact coming from manufacturers, dealers, campgrounds, and the supply. That number wraps up. And so, and we look inside of that, about 68 billion of that can be credited to RV manufacturers and suppliers. But maybe surprising to some folks is about over 25 billion of that is 25.6 billion actually is RV campgrounds and travel associated. So you can see how that kind of splits up. So it's all across the board.
Chad,
so yes,
one important aspect of that, and you know, Bob and I have spoken at many camping, campground association meetings, and the thing that I have yelled at those people about from the campground specifically is that I don't think they do a good enough job of showing the economic impact that they have on their particular marketplace, because I think there's a incorrect assumption that a camper drives in their RV or travel trailer or whatever, hooks up and doesn't leave the campground and then leaves and drives back home. But when you figure the amount of money that they spend, like the Foleys, Audrey Foley Egan is with us, when they come in, they pretty much drink the local liquor stores dry, and they buy gasoline, and they all have toads on their RVs, so they go out into the local marketplace. Audrey, weigh in on this if you get a second, because when a camper comes to town, they don't just go to the campground. They buy stuff that's made in the area. They buy souvenirs. They buy T-shirts. They buy at the local restaurants. And I hope that I'm wondering if that dollar amount is included in the economic impact study that you have.
Yeah, we look at that, and I can give you a little more clarity here. I'll speak to. We're going to talk to hopefully in just a little bit, but when we look at infrastructure and the parks and supporting that, one of the numbers that we look at is very important. For every dollar by the federal government, a $10 return to the economy directly around that park. So that's a pretty nice number. But specifically now this breaks out outside of just camping, but in 2018 numbers, park visitors spent over $20 billion in the towns in cities near the national park sites. So that gives you some scope as to what the spending power of visiting these parks is. And so, and you can correlate that to some campground activity too, because it kind of goes hand in hand in a lot of ways. But I don't have a specific number. Breakouts might be something we could dig up and share later. But
and you know,
I can speak to the fact that
what would be interesting, because John just came back from Yellowstone, and I believe Yellowstone is the most visited park by RVers. Can you imagine the amount of money that is spent in Wyoming with the visitors that go to Yellowstone National Park?
I mean, that's what Jackson Hole is. Jackson Hole is built on skiing there, but you know, the rest of the year it's built on the RV traffic to Yellowstone and car traffic. But Chad, I'm wondering if the numbers that you have are smaller, because you referred to for every dollar that is invested in the park. I'm assuming that you're talking about a federal or a state or national park, and maybe is not including private campgrounds.
Yeah, that reference, you're correct. The reference on the 1 to 10 is focused on, because in this discussion that we'll get to in a little bit, as we're talking with our legislative representatives and speaking about the needs inside of our park systems in the national level and in the federal lands, that was the focus. So the specific data I just shared on that 1 to 10, for every dollar spent in, and that we're seeing some great success too, not only from government spending. It's not just a government spending issue into the park. There's opportunity for private public partnerships in some of our park settings. And when we can see that happening, we're seeing some great success too. So there's some excitement around that, where we can actually maybe bring our parks back into play a little bit better, because frankly, we have a tremendous and beautiful park system, and the people that are involved are working very diligently, whether it's in the federal lands and the national park systems, all the different areas. But they struggle because of funding, and there's a backlog that's incredible. It's in the billions of dollars, and we can break that out later if you'd like to, but it's billions of dollars of actual infrastructure that's known to be provided, and it's causing an impact. So
at Yellowstone,
National Park Practice.
Yellowstone they're building a new one right now. They're building a new park within Yellowstone that'll be able to handle a 40-footer. But the campground that we went to, and you'll see it in that Rolling on TV segment, as we drove through it, my wife said, this must just be for tents. And it wasn't. That's how small the areas are. And the trees are overhanging. You can't put a Horizon or a Tour or a Journey into a lot of those campgrounds in Yellowstone, which is a shame. But like you say, they talk about the fact that there's not enough money to keep those parks up to date with the new units that are out there.
So, well, speaking about it,
perhaps. Okay, on that. We okay to go, Bob? Here.
Go ahead, Chad.
Okay, so on the park front, then, as we look at that, so you're looking at Eisenhower era development in a lot of these cases. So that's how far back, sometimes 50, 60 years, some of these properties are.
Yeah.
And with that, there's been we've actually heard from some of the folks that work in these systems that we have to shut down this portion of that resource because we don't have the dollars to fund making it work again. So the sewage system breaks. They don't have the dollars to go in and do that. So it seems ludicrous because all of a sudden things that can actually make you money, you're not investing in. But what's going on is there's movement inside some of these allow for, like I say, more of the partnerships and some things great. We had awesome news today. So Senator Ernst, who's co-chair of the RV Caucus in the Senate, happens to be from Iowa, and Senator Wyden from Oregon, just co-sponsored a bipartisan legislation called Recreation Not Red Tape, which focuses very clearly on the needs inside our park systems. And so is to break through some of the bureaucracy and some of the struggles that you have trying to get things done, and also to provide some clear channels of funding. So we're seeing great things that on the horizon, maybe that are going to help us in that respect, because we have these valued and treasured resources that people want to explore. But the sad fact is, if you look back to 1980, we had over 4.5 million visits in the parks, camp overnight stays. That dropped to like 2.5 million recently. So we've seen a steady decrease in the overnight stays inside the parks because of the properties availabilities.
Yep.
And so in a lot of cases, the private sector has been able to help shore that up outside the national parks. But it is a situation where it's actually a revenue loss for the parks because people aren't in there using them the way they should.
Yep.
So we're all for fair access and managing this in a way that's going to provide for us for the future as a country and all of us as citizens. So that's the good news that we're seeing.
Great. Hey, Bob, our content is so compelling that we both forgot to take a break 8 minutes ago.
Right.
But we'll do that now. And by the way, Bob, while I'm doing this, if you look at some of the comments that were put out,
that's what I'm going to do. That's what
Chad,
I'm going to do.
one of the things that's unique about our show is that you're not just dealing with Bob and I, you're dealing with the thousands of people that write their comments down here. Because I couldn't remember the name of the campground, but Fishing Bridge, Walter said Fishing Bridge is the one in Yellowstone, but that's not going to be ready till 2020 or 21. So there we go. It's being built. So what I want to say is that this show is coming to you live from Boylston, Massachusetts at Fuller RV. And they've been in business for 35 years. And not only are they in the rental business, but they're in the sales business as well. And we want to thank the people who join us live, and especially want to thank them for sharing the page. So somewhere on your page, it says share. So if you hit that share button, share it with someone who's thinking of getting into RVing, that's into RVing, or somebody that knows nothing of RVing and you think that they would enjoy the RV lifestyle. So we thank you, our viewers, our live viewers, for sharing. And we also want to let the people that are watching on a replay version to know that you can still write in a question, and we go back for a week or 10 days and go back and answer all your questions that are here. And we've already got 23 comments tonight. So,
all right.
Bob, go.
Ken Wagner from Moose Track Travelers. That's one of the main Good Sam chapters. Ken, you've been doing a fantastic job sharing a lot of our stuff with your members up there, and we look forward to seeing you at the Freiburg Fairgrounds when Martin and Diane host the main Good Sam rally in September. Audrey says the tourist attractions that are run, in our case in New England, the USS Constitution and sites like that. Yeah, but we can't camp by the USS Constitution, though.
No, but they camp nearby and go visit it.
Right. Yep. They can do that. And Martin's on. He says hello from the other half. Let's see, Martin. How come Diane beat you? See, they must do 2 different computers in their house.
They live in 2 separate houses.
Jerry says, and when the government shuts down, the first place where they lock the gates of national.
That's a no way. She took umbrage to my comment about draining the liquor stores dry. She wrote, "Hey."
So also,
now look who we got. Look who wrote this comment.
This is we made a rock star out of Dave Prada, who left his job, sold everything, bought a 2000 Journey, Chad. He journeyed there for a week. We got him on his 3rd day, him and his dog Darwin. They were up at Acadia. I suspect you're still up in Maine, Dave. But Dave he's up to 8,100 views, and he's already in 3rd place all time for the 18 months of our shows. And the only, let's see, who's in front of him?
Don Clark.
Don Clark is tops with 10,763. So my objective when I go out to Forest City, Audrey, you said, where am I going? I'm going to visit relatives in Illinois. I've got a Winnebago Bolt, and I'm going out to the Winnebago 50th Anniversary Grand National Rally. And my objective is to boost Mike Happy ahead of Don Clark, because we've been listening to Clark brag now for almost a year that he's got 10,760 views. So time out a second. What?
You might be able to do that, but I can boost that. When I interviewed Mike Happy last year, we did it in the middle of a hurricane warning where all of the campground was huddled into the fallout shelters. Remember that, Chad?
Well, first of all, it was a tornado, not a hurricane.
Tornado, hurricane, same.
But the only reason that you were mad was you couldn't go back to the stand and get another root beer float that Chad was making at the rally. So
that was 2 nights later.
Why don't you admit why you were really mad?
2 nights later. You're making up fake news. Chad was probably helping the assembled multitudes get to those shelters.
Yeah,
all I know is my wife was in a shower stall with a lady who had 3 parrots with her. My wife was not happy.
That better not.
I was with Mike Happy. My wife was not happy.
That better not happen when I'm out there. May will take the next plane home. So,
we're predicting clear skies and great weather for you, Bob.
Yeah. It's a month away, and you're doing that. That's right. It's a month this week, right? Right, Chad?
Yep. It is. Yeah, that week of the 22nd in there. Yeah, you betcha.
Yeah. Because I'll be on the cruise.
Scott Nichols is with us from Marshall. Hello, Scott. I really appreciate you joining us every week. All right, so Chad, let's get back on track. You mentioned some, the new legislation that's going through, and I would suspect that one of the highlights, and I saw many posts on it, despite what we think of the swamp and the people in Washington, they're well-intentioned people. And I know every time that I've visited Washington, you get such reverence for our country and what we have done as an institution. And those people, even, I don't care what side of the aisle they're on, they're really good people. They have political views. So I know you were impressed when you were down. Speak to that a little bit and give us some faith in our leaders down there.
Yeah, and I can certainly echo your thoughts there. It is refreshing, always these trips when you get the opportunity to get into our nation's capital. and do some interaction there. It is refreshing because when we watch the news feeds every day, it's always head banging, it seems like, and tension. And while obviously that goes on, it's refreshing to see the abilities, the bipartisanship that does happen. A lot of it isn't celebrated, but a classic case today, I think if you were to look at Senator Ernst and Senator Wyden, they probably have a good deal of differences. In fact, I know they do on some of the things that they work on. But here, they clearly work together to drive a very important piece of legislation through for us. And, that's critical. And so it's refreshing to see that. It's not just the senators and the representatives, but their staffs too. They play a very important role. And oftentimes, that gets joked about, oh, they seem like they're all kids. Well, these are very experienced people out there doing some great work. And a lot of times I think they're putting in a lot of long hours too that maybe they don't get the credit for. But it's often easy for us to sit back and say, oh, that whole mess out there, the swamp, as you refer to it. But the fact of the matter is that you're right on this. There's a lot of great people out there trying to do a lot of good stuff for us. And that also goes out into some of the agencies we work with, whether it's the Department of Ag or the National Park Systems and those type of folks. We've seen some great receptions in their ability to want to work with us and everybody else to try and make things better. They're all kind of in it together with us in a lot of respects, and that's been a nice experience because you don't often get that perspective.
When you figure, let me just have one thing here, but when you figure, Chad, let's look about two cities: Forest City, Iowa, and Elkhart, Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Both of those cities, I'm guessing, and you don't really have to be an economist to figure this out, but the economies revolve around Winnebago in Forest City, and the economy in Elkhart is 99% or 95%, RV related. So consequently, at least in those two cities, as well as other cities in northern Indiana, the RV industry is the chief economic wheel in that particular town. And that's got nothing to do with camping. It's got to do with economics and making campers.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think we can speak to that a little further in saying that, the RV industry is turned out to be a fairly accurate and prime indicator of what the overall economy is doing. From a standpoint, when we hit recessionary periods, oftentimes we feel that first. But on the reverse side, the better news there is coming out of some of those periods, we tend to reflect the upswing sooner. And so we're a fairly good barometer. And so I think that draws some attention too. But when we walk into places and start talking about the total economic impact, the $114 billion mark, that actually is significant enough that people say, yeah, you guys are an important part of our economy, whether you're in Forest City, Iowa, Junction City, Oregon, or in Elkhart, Indiana, or any of the other number of places RVs are made, Tiffin and Red Bay, Alabama. Those places see large economic impact from RV, but overall, when we pull all the different states, Bob, as you mentioned that you're going to share the RVs Move America study, not only we break it out nationally, we break it out by state. And now that gets really interesting because you can look specifically at a northeastern state and determine exactly what that economic impact, or you can go to Oklahoma or Florida. And those numbers are often higher than you might imagine for some areas that maybe don't even have either a large manufacturing presence or maybe you don't think is a large RV target audience. But you'll be surprised with some of those numbers. So it's kind of fun to see too.
It is. We use those a lot of our seminars. We also, at the Boston show, I post those up in the seminar area, and people are always surprised to see the economic impact. But the part behind the scenes that consumers don't see is a lot of people go to Washington that week. I think you had probably about 150, and they are CEOs, they are production managers, they are owners of dealerships, they're associations, and they go around. Explain the day where you all kind of break up and you go to see the representatives and the senators.
Yes, actually, it turns out now it's almost a day and a half now of that type of activity built into this week. And it's very important. We actually go visit our representatives and oftentimes meet with them in person, occasionally a staff member. But we also meet with key representatives from different agencies or groups within inside the government that we're working with. And so those are very personal meetings. So we will go in and typically how that works is you'll have an appointment and you'll show up at the office, and then you'll actually get to spend one-on-one time with the people that represent you, and get to express not only what we're seeing out there, and they're very keen on wanting to know what we're seeing in either the marketplace or in the environment that we're in. And also they share back with us some things that are going on our behalf in DC. So it's a two-way street, and I find it very refreshing to find out that there's a lot of activity that we don't always hear about, and it doesn't always make a news feed, but they're trying to move the needle ahead positive in a positive fashion for us. So
Hey,
I give great credit to what's done out there. Yeah.
I know that Winnebago is an Indiana-based company. However, you could say that because of Grand Design. But has the industry been able to see any favorable activity because of Mike Pence coming from Indiana? Has that helped?
Well, obviously,
well,
if you look back a couple years, Mike Pence, obviously governor of Indiana, before he became the vice president, and so he is familiar with the industry. Obviously, if you were to go back to one of the Power Breakfasts just a few years ago, he was actually featured there. So he's very well aware, we think, of the RV industry. Now, from a day-to-day, is there contact with them? Probably not. I think he's got his hands full on some larger issues, working with the president and things like that. But it's certainly, I would say that he has an understanding of the RV industry coming from Indiana from that perspective. And I don't know that you're aware, but his brother, his older brother, as his brother will tell you, is a representative from Indiana now.
Right.
And so, we're fortunate to have a great congressional and representation in the state of Indiana, both at the senator level and the individual representatives. Jackie Walorski, of course, representing the Elkhart area, is great. She's co-sponsor inside the Senate, or rather the House RV Caucus. And so she's done a lot of great work on behalf of a lot of the things that are important to us.
I got to tell you a quick Winnebago story here while we're at it here. We have a little break from that serious stuff. I see Jason Cole signed on and said, good evening. So Sunday morning at about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning, it was just getting light. I was on Interstate 95 in Rhode Island, and I was driving my Winnebago Itasca Navion to Cape Cod. And you know what? It was great. There were a few deer on the side of the road, but no traffic. All of a sudden, my phone starts ringing, and it says Providence, Rhode Island on it. And I said, oh, don't tell me I went through one of those automated speed traps, and they're telling me to slow down. But it was Jason Cole who had just passed me. He was driving from his Rhode Island home over to Massachusetts to go fishing for the day. And Jason is the immediate past president of Good Sam, Rhode Island. And he said, hey, DePietro, I just want to let you know that I'm watching you. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I just passed you a few minutes ago. So anyway, but that's a Winnebago story. So I thought it was, you might not have liked it, but I thought it was good.
Well, you brushed over the caucus and you broke up just a speck, but many people don't realize that we have an RV caucus down there. Is there one in the House? I think Senator.
Yes.
The House and the Senate. But talk about the RV.
Yes. The caucus. There's actually a House caucus and a Senate caucus, and what it allows is basically the legislature's kind of grouping together slightly and sharing information, and then they're a nice resource then when topics come up. And so on the House side, great representation from a lot of different areas. In fact, one of the original members was from Florida, our passionate RVer himself, and he's since retired from Congress. But Jackie Walorski's there, as well as a wide variety of other House members belong to the caucus. And on the Senate side, our very own from Iowa, Senator Ernst, when she first was elected to the Senate, she stepped up right away, and actually time was Senator Donnelly of Indiana. Now, obviously Senator Donnelly's retired, but we have great representation up in your neck of the woods. Senator King from Maine is on the caucus. So we've got, there's a good core group of folks out there, and it's good for all of us as RV passionate, RV enthusiast folks to have.
Tell them the King story.
Yeah.
Tell Chad in our audience the Angus King story.
Have you ever read Senator King's book?
He's got a book, yeah. He's kind of an RVer himself.
He's an RVer. When he left office, he bought a big Dutch Star motorhome and took his wife and kids, took the kids out of school and toured around. I think it's called What I Learned. I don't know, backing up motorhomes, getting speeding tickets. It's the funniest thing in the world. And we brought him in one year for the Boston RV show. If you haven't got the book, I don't know if I got any more around, but John and I had a deal with our RV Insights, consulting company. We had a deal to represent Governor King, and we had dinner with him and his wife after we did the Boston show. And we didn't have any paperwork or anything, but we were going to have the rights to market his book in the RV industry. 2 days later, I see a headline that says Olympia Snow is not going to run for office. And I call up John and I say, kiss the book deal goodbye, because within 24 hours, Angus King is in that race. I don't care what you hear, what you read about. And sure enough, he was in and he won. And our book deal went out the window. But it is a great book, though.
Speaking of Maine, Mr. Quayle had asked, Chad, those RV moves, are those buttons or stickers?
There were both a button here. I'll hold one up here. This is actually a special one. These are actually a plastic base. There were metal ones, but these go through the security on Capitol Hill because they're not metal.
Yeah.
But they're pins basically. I'm not sure if there's a sticker available, but this was provided by RVIA.
Available in volume? Would there be 100 of them around somewhere?
With our staff at RVIA, I know that we've got them. I just don't know how many. So I can certainly find out and get back to you.
No, you got enough on your plate. I'll talk to them and see what
we had. Martin wants to give them out in Maine when they do the Maine event.
Yep.
The Maine event, get it? The Maine event.
Yeah,
the Maine event. We love it. We love it.
Yeah, but we're going to want them in September for the Northeast charity, the Northeast rally for the charities for Mass, where they combine Mass and Good Sam. So Rhode Island, but we'll check on that, Martin. It's a good idea.
It's a great idea. Who better to use them? Who better to use them than people that use RVs?
Right.
So, exactly.
I look closer. Look at there's Walter's fifth wheel right in the back of that truck.
Wait, what are you talking about?
In that, see the
in the picture. Yeah.
See the picture there? That's Walter.
Yeah.
In his fifth wheel.
Okay. So Walter said,
presuming your wife is progressing nicely, Walter.
Yep.
We're presuming that.
We're well on her recovery. That's good. So Walter says he's got a serious question. Not to put you on the spot, but we talk about this in our business. Capacity, service campgrounds, etc., and quality are going to be major impacts in the not too distant future if the industry doesn't stand up and take notice of RV users' complaints. A little bit off topic, but do you want to address it at all, Chad?
I'd love to. It's certainly something that I think we all need to be aware of, and as the popularity of RVing continues to grow. And the expectations of our consumer base continue to evolve. It's things that we need to address, and all of us as individual manufacturers and us as an industry need to be. And some of the things that you see us doing and talking about today are part of that. Whether it's accessibility to the public and private sector infrastructure things, but also, I don't know how far we're going down the rabbit hole as far as talking about individual service and things like that. But there are initiatives underway, and I can speak to the service side to some knowledge. I actually spent a large part of my earlier career in the service segment, and so I have some basis there. But there's a big movement right now inside the industry, and we actually just purchased a facility in Elkhart, of all places, because of the location to the industry. But it's a technical institute, and we've funded that, and we've hired a new person to run it. And so there's some great news on that front. Now, all these things, I would say, take a little bit of time to continue to move forward. But there's been some great folks in this industry. I'll point out Bruce Hopkins, who has been a stalwart on a lot of fronts for us in standards and service in developing the curriculums and the educational processes that we need to build off of. And those type of things have been going on. But I think you could be fair to say that we've stepped up that game, and it's taking more of a precedence for us and moving forward quicker. And so the RV Learning Institute and things like that we're embedded with, there's a lot of good stuff going on.
Hey,
Yeah,
Chad, we had the director, the newly named director, Kurt, of the RVTI on with us when we were up in Elkhart for Power Breakfast. And you know what? I personally think it's good that he's not coming from the industry to run this show.
Well, I think that's there was a very strong vetting process going on. I mean, we were trying to find the best as an industry, the best person for that role, and I was not involved with that in the interviewing process or anything, but I did hear about it, and I do know that as it came down, he was a clear great choice for us. So we're pretty excited and where he's going to be able to take us, but he's bringing some expertise to us that we think that we need moving forward as far as how we will structure that type of an environment, how we're going to proceed and move forward. So I think having.
Well, I'm going to bring Kurt in here into New England in August. We've been talking about it, and some of these comments have just prompted something else. But what I'm going to do is we're going to do 2 meetings, one in Connecticut, one in probably close to outside Boston, and we're going to have meetings. Each one will be with about 10 of our service managers from our dealer network, because I want him to hear directly from the service man, and he wants to hear directly from them. But our audience is so good. It just dawned on me that while he's here, I'm going to set up another group both in Connecticut and Massachusetts. So if any of you guys who are on here want to be part of it, but I'm going to set up a meeting where we'll have 10 consumers who can also talk to Kurt. And he's there for a reason, to develop the educational programs and to benefit that. So I don't want to leave the users because they're so good to us, but that'll be interesting to have a meeting with the service managers and then the users, so that he's gathering all this information as he builds curriculum and builds out that facility. So that's great.
It's important that he's coming in with a clean slate. It's not like he was vice president from one of the major manufacturers in Elkhart and is just going to, like a lot of elected officials leave their post, get thrown into a position which they know nothing about, and don't do anything except build up their retirement stuff. This guy is not that way. I was impressed when we met him.
Yeah, he's real down to earth. Mark Polk is on. Good evening, gents. Just got home at 7:15. Mark, I understand you're a busy man. You're doing a lot of videos. You're doing a lot of educational stuff. But it's Bob and John, and I don't see Dawn on here, by the way. So this may be her night to work with the dog.
Walter Swenson said, "Sign me up."
Sign me. Oh, Walter Swenson. Yeah, I'll get you. I'll bet Jason would want to go too. So yeah, and I'll bet Martin would want to go. But yeah, that just.
Well, maybe we should make an ad hoc committee with designated people like the Good Sam directors.
But Audrey would be a good one. Audrey's not shy about saying what she likes and doesn't like. Of course, we'd probably have to provide some adult beverages if she comes to the meeting. But
Audrey, you're getting a bad rap, and I admit to starting it.
Yeah, exactly.
I admit to starting it. Hey, Bob, we got to do one more promo before we go here. So
we got 7 minutes left. Yeah. We'll let you do one more promo.
So, we're coming to you live and in person from Fuller RV on Route 140.
You're coming
to Massachusetts. I think Sherry's out here somewhere. But they're a great company. They're a great NERVDA member. They've been NERVDA members for many, many years. And we want to thank our live audience for taking time to hit the share button to allow us to reach 7, 8, 10,000 people a week. And thank you so much for sharing.
Great. Good one. All right. So, Chad, we got about 5 minutes left. In your responsibility as PR chairman, I know you work with the Go RVing. You want to talk about Go RVing? We got Toy Story in. We got the Washington stuff in. You want to talk about Go RVing and then what we got to look forward there?
Yeah, actually, I do. Go RVing is just a tremendous opportunity. We as an industry came together over 20 years ago, 25 years ago, to begin this process of how do we, for lack of a better term, share our story in a more logical way than we can as individuals. So it combined manufacturers, suppliers, campgrounds, all the entities that would have a say, And this coalition truly is a coalition. So with that, we fund what is known as Go RVing, and that model provides dollars and resources to be able to go out and tell our story as an industry. And we think very successful. And you've seen the growth of that over the course of years. But it's allowed us to do some things, and you would say there's some traditional things you'll see there, television-based advertising, things like that. But the more important roles that have evolved have been more social media-wise and experiential, and reaching into marketplaces where maybe people didn't even realize what RVs could do for their lifestyle. And so that's been very successful. In fact, I know there's an event coming up in September in your area, Bob, with the Big E, as it's called, yes, where you're going to see a Go RVing presence, and that's a great outreach. And over the course of last year, I think we were in different venues that actually had about 4.8 million, 4.5 million getting exposure. And with that, 150 some thousand or whatever it was number of people actually going through RVs at these different venues that were not typical RV venues, for music, festivals.
Chad, you have to tell those RVIA people to let Zagami know about that, because he can get dealers there. He can get product there. We have dealers. In fact, the biggest show in New England outside of the Boston show is held right on those Big E grounds. And that is the heart of camping country in Western Massachusetts. But we can't do it locally unless the RVIA folks call on the local people to make it happen, because they're not going to be able to fly in from Washington and get the pulse of the community the way we already have it. And
that's a great point. I would say that's a great point. There's real awareness of that inside the organization, both RVI and Go RVing, and we do utilize. In fact, I can point to Pleasureland up in Minnesota. They did a similar event at the Minnesota State Fair last year. Pleasureland was there, and so we are able to tie into the local dealer markets, because you're very accurate in saying local market better. It's the local people, whether it's the dealer or the consumer. They know what the needs are, and so that's a great model for us. And we do that. Manufacturer, so we may ship to support the dealer sometimes on that, or we may do it on our own. But a lot of times there's dealer involvement in these activities. So you're right on the money.
Yeah, it's going to be the last weekend of the Big E. For those of you who are out there that go to the Big E, there will be an RVIA Go RVing exhibit, and right now it looks like it's going to be Diamond RV that'll be providing the RVs, and they worked with them last year at one of the air shows. We are just about out of time. I do want to make a quick announcement. We said it early in the show, but some people may not have had it. I know you guys are really faithful to us and show up every Wednesday, and we really appreciate it, but we are going to take a week off as we did last year. Next Wednesday, there will not be a show. We will be back on July 10th with Joel Holland at Harvest Host, and July 17th, we'll have a return engagement with our friends over at Rolling on TV. And then on July 24th, we will have, 31st, we got Go Power talking about solar energy. So, Chad, I really want to thank you. As I said at the beginning, we don't script it. We don't know what we're going to talk about. We don't know what our fans are going to ask about, but I hope it was good for you.
Well, I sure appreciate it. It's been a great experience. Love to do it again sometime, because to be honest with you, we didn't even get to half of what we want to talk about tonight. There's a lot of other cool things going on. And I just didn't know. You're right, this unscripted part, but it's great. It's fun. It's great to have the questions from the community in here. And there's a lot more going on, both from the PR perspective of RVI and some of the things that we're doing on that front. But we'd love to share. But obviously, we're kind of running out of time. But I do appreciate the opportunity and look forward to maybe come back at some time if you'll have me.
Hey, Chad, the interesting note, you brought up RVTI, and five people, while we were just talking, 5 people said, I want to be on that committee as the layman, not as the person.
Okay.
Well, I don't control that part of it, but I can put the word to the right people.
Yep. Exactly. Well, this is our thing here, so anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, so John went last year to the Grand National Rally. And he was happy with your root beer floats that you provided to him.
No, they don't make them with Jack Daniels, Zagami.
They don't?
They don't make root beer floats with Jack Daniels.
Well, I'll bring it with me. But I have a bigger appetite than him, Chad. So tend to like banana splits. You could put an order.
You know what? That could be arranged. I think we can handle that. I know just the right people.
They can go to the one food store in Forest City and order the bananas in advance, right, Chad? There's one.
Yeah, we'll be ready for you. We'll be in good shape.
The week I forgot was July 24th. I will be at Winnebago's factory in Forest City, Iowa, at the 50th Grand National Rally, and my guest will be Mike Happy, Chairman, CEO, and President of Winnebago Industries.
Hey, Bob, are we forgetting to thank Sam for setting this up?
Actually, Chad and I set it up, but Sam snuck into the deal today during the test just to make sure Chad was okay.
Is he there now?
He's actually out of all things, his final T-ball game for he coaches one of his kids' T-ball team. So he's doing that tonight.
Where are you right now, Chad? Are you over in the big office?
I'm in my office in Forest City, sitting right in the visitor center.
Oh, in the visitor center. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Bob, that's where you got to go get those little metal toys that I got for your grandson last year. They're over there.
We just made that this weekend. I had him up in Maine this weekend and had been sitting in the bottom of his toy box, and we took it out and we put that little white Brave together again by ourselves. All right. Thank you, guys. Chad, I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks out there, and thanks again for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure.
All right.
Look forward to seeing you.
Everybody next week.
Bye, everybody.
Next week, the week after.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a great